There is a door in your psyche that you locked a long time ago. You may have forgotten where you put the key. You may have convinced yourself that what lives behind that door no longer exists. But something has been stirring in the basement of your unconscious for weeks now. And on May 6th, the Lord of the Underworld turns around and walks directly toward that door. Pluto stations retrograde at 6 degrees and 36 minutes of Aquarius. For the next 5 months until October 18th, the slowest and most powerful planet in our solar system will move backward through the sky. Not away from you, toward you, into you, down through the layers of everything you thought you had dealt with, everything you thought you had released, everything you buried so deep you forgot it was ever alive. But here is what nobody is telling you about this particular retrograde. It does not arrive alone. It arrives as the closing of a gate. Since mid-April, every single planet in the solar system has been moving forward. Mercury direct, Venus direct, Mars direct, Jupiter direct, all of them pulling together in the same direction, creating what astrologers call the rarest manifestation window of the year. On May 6th, that window slams shut. Pluto is the hand that closes it. This is not punishment. This is not cosmic cruelty. This is the universe saying that the season of planting is over. The season of descent has begun. And what descends with you into these 5 months of shadow work will determine what you are capable of carrying when you emerge in October. In the next few minutes, you will discover 3 things that will change how you move through this retrograde. First, what Pluto stationing actually does to the fabric of reality, and why the days surrounding May 6th carry more weight than the months that follow. Second, the specific material that Pluto retrograde will excavate from your depths and how to recognize it when it surfaces. And third, a descent protocol built for this exact window that transforms what could be 5 months of unconscious suffering into the most profound healing passage of your life. Stay here because the staircase is already forming beneath your feet. Let me show you what is physically happening in the sky. Because Pluto's station is not a metaphor, it is a measurable astronomical event with effects that ripple through everything. Pluto takes 248 years to complete one orbit around the Sun. It moves so slowly that it spends approximately 20 years in each sign. When a planet this slow changes direction, it does not simply flip like a switch, it grinds to a halt. For days before and after May 6th, Pluto will appear almost motionless against the backdrop of stars. Astronomers call this the stationary period. Astrologers call it the most concentrated expression of a planet's energy possible. Think of it this way. A car driving at high speed has momentum spread across distance. The same car stopped at a red light has all its weight pressing down on a single point of pavement. Pluto stationary is all of its transformative, annihilating, regenerating power pressing down on one single degree of the zodiac, and that degree is 6 Aquarius and 36 minutes. If you have any planet or significant point in your birth chart between 4 and 9 degrees of the fixed signs Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, or Scorpio, you will feel this station in your bones. Literally. Pluto rules the skeletal system, the structures that hold everything else in place. When Pluto stations, the bones remember what the mind has forgotten. But even if your chart is not directly triggered, you exist inside a collective field, and that field is about to undergo a fundamental pressure shift. The way water feels different before a storm, the way animals grow quiet before an earthquake, the way your grandmother always knew when something was coming, that knowing is available to everyone right now. Pluto's station sends a signal through the entire web of human consciousness. And here is the critical piece. Pluto does not create problems. Pluto reveals what was already rotting beneath the surface. The discomfort you feel during this retrograde is not Pluto attacking you. It is Pluto showing you what has been attacking you from the inside, quietly, for years. Now let me tell you what the ancients understood about the Lord of the Underworld. Because Pluto has been ruling over human transformation long before we had a name for him. Long before astronomers discovered the planet in 1930, the Greeks called him Hades. Not a devil figure, as later traditions distorted him, but the wealthy one, Pluton, from which our word Pluto derives. He was wealthy because everything that dies eventually comes to him. Every empire, every ego, every illusion, every version of yourself that runs its course. He collects them all. And from the composted remains of what has ended, new life eventually grows. Hades did not chase souls into the underworld. He simply presided over a realm that everyone would eventually enter. The journey to his kingdom was not punishment. It was completion. And the Greeks understood that some journeys to the underworld were voluntary. The hero who descended while still alive, who walked into the darkness with eyes open and intention clear, emerged with something that those who avoided the descent could never possess. Orpheus descended for love. Persephone descended and became queen. Hercules descended and returned with proof of his power over death itself. These were not victims of the underworld. They were initiates, and initiation requires descent. This is what Pluto retrograde offers you, not a forced abduction into your own shadows, but an invitation to walk down the stairs voluntarily, to meet what waits in the darkness before it has to come looking for you. The Egyptians understood this even more precisely. They called the underworld Duat, and unlike the Greek Hades, Duat was not simply a place of the dead. It was the realm of transformation, the place where the sun traveled each night, dying in the west and being reborn in the east. Every soul that entered Duat faced trials. The heart was weighed against the feather of Maat. What was true was allowed to continue. What was false was devoured. This is the frequency of Pluto retrograde, a weighing, an examination, not of your actions but of your depths. The question is not what have you done. The question is what have you been carrying that was never true? What have you been protecting that died long ago? What have you been calling love that is actually control? What have you been calling strength that is actually fear wearing armor? These questions cannot be answered by the conscious mind. They can only be answered by descent. Now let me tell you what has been happening in your body. Because Pluto's station does not announce itself through thoughts first. It announces itself through the body, through dreams, through the strange weight that settles over you, in moments you cannot explain. The lower back. Pluto rules the eliminative systems of the body, everything that releases what is no longer needed. The lower back, which carries the weight of what you refuse to put down, has been activated for weeks. A deep ache that is not injury. A tension that stretches and massage do not fully release. This is your body preparing for the descent. It is asking you what weight you are ready to leave at the top of the stairs. The pelvis and reproductive system. Pluto governs the organs of death and birth, the places where endings and beginnings are physically housed. Some of you have noticed unusual sensations in this area. Pressure, awareness, the feeling that something is stirring in the creative center of your body. This is not random. The same energy that creates life is the energy that transforms consciousness. Pluto is waking that energy up. The dreams. Over the past 2 weeks, your dream life has likely intensified. Not pleasant dreams, dense dreams. Dreams of people who have died. Dreams of places you used to live. Dreams where you are searching for something you cannot find, or running from something you cannot see. These are not nightmares in the ordinary sense. They are reconnaissance missions. Your unconscious is sending scouts into the territory you are about to enter. And there is something else. A face has been appearing. Someone from your past. Someone you have not thought about in months or years. They surface in your mind without warning. At the grocery store, in the shower, just before sleep. This is not nostalgia. This is Pluto sending a messenger. That face is connected to whatever is buried behind the locked door. They are not the content. They are the key. Pay attention to who keeps appearing. Write their name down, not because you need to contact them, but because they are a thread, and following that thread will lead you to whatever is ready to be transformed. Here is what this retrograde will excavate. Not what you fear it will excavate, what it actually will. Pluto retrograde in Aquarius works on the layer of identity that is constructed from belonging, the groups you join to feel accepted, the beliefs you adopted to fit in, the version of yourself you perform in public because the authentic version was once rejected. This is the material that Pluto will bring to the surface over the next 5 months. You may find yourself suddenly questioning communities you have been part of for years, not because they became toxic, but because you outgrew them quietly, and only now are you realizing the gap between who you are. You may find old friendships ending, not with drama, but with the quiet recognition that the only thing holding you together was a past that no longer exists. Pluto does not rip away what is alive. It removes what has already died but has not yet been buried. You may find yourself unable to perform the social masks you have worn with such ease. The charming deflection, the agreeable smile, the pretend interest in conversations that drain you. Pluto in Aquarius is stripping the machinery of social performance. What remains when the performance ends is what you will discover over these 5 months. But here is the gift hidden inside the excavation. What Pluto removes, it replaces with something real. When the false belonging falls away, the possibility of true belonging opens. When the performative identity collapses, the authentic identity has room to breathe. When the friendships that were built on obligation end, the friendships that are built on resonance can finally begin. This retrograde is not taking something from you. It is clearing the space for something you have not yet met. Now let me give you the protocol. Because descent without structure is just falling. Descent with intention is initiation. This is a 5-month practice. Each month corresponds to a phase of the retrograde, and each phase has a specific focus. You do not need to do everything perfectly. You need to do something consistently. The underworld rewards those who show up. Month 1 is May, the month of the station. The door opens. Your only task this month is observation. Do not try to fix anything yet. Do not try to heal anything yet. Simply watch. Keep a shadow journal. Every evening before sleep, write one sentence answering this question. What uncomfortable truth surfaced today? It may be small. A flash of jealousy you did not want to admit. A moment of cruelty you usually excuse. A fear you pretend you do not have. One sentence. Every night. By the end of May, you will have a map of your personal underworld. Month 2 is June, the month of descent. Now you follow the threads that appeared in May. Choose the one that carries the most charge. The truth that made you wince when you wrote it. The pattern that repeated more than once. This month, you go deeper into that material. Not through analysis, through feeling. Let yourself feel the original wound. Let yourself grieve what you lost when you first learned to hide this part of yourself. June is not comfortable. June is necessary. Month 3 is July, the month of confrontation. At the center of every underworld journey is an encounter, something you must face that cannot be defeated by force. This month, the core pattern reveals itself. You will see clearly, perhaps for the first time, the mechanism that has been running beneath your conscious choices. The belief that was installed before you could speak. The decision you made as a child that you have been living out as an adult. July brings you face to face with this. Your task is not to fight it. Your task is to understand it completely, to see how it served you once, to see how it imprisons you now. Month 4 is August and September, the months of integration. This is where the real work happens. Having seen the pattern clearly, you now begin to make different choices. Not dramatic choices, daily choices. The moment you would normally betray yourself, you pause and choose differently. The situation where you would usually perform, you stay silent and stay present. Integration is not a single breakthrough. It is 1,000 small decisions that add up to a new way of being. August and September are your practice ground. Month 5 is October, the month of emergence. Pluto stations direct on October 18th. The journey reverses. The stairs now lead upward. But you do not return the same person who descended. You return with something you earned in the darkness. A power that was trapped behind the locked door. An authenticity that was buried under years of performance. A self-trust that only comes from having met your shadows and survived. This is the 5-month arc. It is not easy. It was never meant to be easy. But it is the difference between being dragged through your shadows unconsciously and walking through them with your eyes open. Let me show you where this lands in your chart. Because the house where 6 degrees Aquarius falls determines the specific room of your life where Pluto will be conducting its excavation. If you are Aquarius rising, Pluto retrogrades through your first house. This is identity work at the deepest level. Who you think you are is about to be dismantled. Who you actually are is about to be revealed. The death and rebirth here is of the self itself. If you are Capricorn rising, the second house is activated. Your relationship with money, possessions, and self-worth is being excavated. What you have been depending on for security may fall away so that you can discover a security that cannot be taken. If you are Sagittarius rising, the third house is the territory, communication patterns, sibling relationships, the way you think and learn. Old mental frameworks are dying. New ways of perceiving are preparing to emerge. If you are Scorpio rising, the fourth house takes the hit. Home, family, the psychological foundation you were built on. Something in your roots is being examined. Ancestral patterns are surfacing for completion. If you are Libra rising, the fifth house activates creativity, children, romance, joy. The ways you have been blocking your own pleasure are being revealed. The performer in you is being asked to step aside so the creator can emerge. If you are Virgo rising, the 6th house is the zone. Health, daily routines, work habits, service. The ways you have been unconsciously sabotaging your own well-being are becoming visible. The body is speaking what the mind has refused to hear. If you are Leo rising, the 7th house is excavated. Partnerships, marriage, close relationships with others. The dynamics you have been tolerating, the patterns you have been repeating, the ways you abandon yourself in relationship, all of it is rising for examination. If you are Cancer rising, the 8th house activates. Shared resources, intimacy, death, transformation. This is Pluto in its home territory. The deepest excavation happens here. Nothing is off limits. Nothing is protected from the light. If you are Gemini rising, the 9th house is the focus. Beliefs, philosophy, higher education, long-distance travel. The worldview you constructed is being tested. The meaning you assigned to life is being questioned. What survives this questioning will be unshakable. If you are Taurus rising, the 10th house takes the pressure. Career, public reputation, legacy. The role you play in the world is being examined. The gap between your public image and your private reality is being closed, one way or another. If you are Aries rising, the 11th house activates. Community, friends, networks, hopes for the future. The groups you belong to, the causes you support, the social identity you constructed. All of it is under review. If you are Pisces rising, the 12th house is the territory, the unconscious itself, the hidden realms, the spirituality that happens when no one is watching. This is the deepest possible descent because the 12th house has no floor. Pisces rising will travel further into the mystery than anyone else during this retrograde. Know your house, know your territory, and prepare for 5 months of excavation in that specific room. There is one more piece you need to understand before we close, and it is perhaps the most important. Pluto retrograde does not only affect individuals, it affects the collective, and the collective right now is fragile. Systems that appeared stable are revealing their cracks. Institutions that demanded trust are losing it. The version of civilization that was built on illusions is being shown for what it is. This is not something to fear. This is something to participate in consciously, because when Pluto excavates the collective shadow, those who have done their personal shadow work become anchors. They become the stable ground that others can stand on when their own foundations shake. Your descent is not only for you. Your willingness to meet your shadows makes you more capable of holding space for others who are just beginning to see theirs. Every person who does this work consciously reduces the amount of unconscious projection in the collective field. You are not separate from the world that is transforming. You are a node in that transformation, and the quality of your descent determines the quality of energy you add to the whole. If something stirred in you while you listened, write it in the comments, not the surface response, the one from the basement, the one that surprised you, the one that made you realize the door is already unlocked. Your honesty becomes a mirror for someone who is still pretending they do not know what is behind their own door. If there is someone in your life who has been avoiding their depths, who has been running from something they cannot name, who keeps wondering why the same patterns repeat no matter what they try, send them this video, not as advice, as permission. Permission to finally descend. Subscribe and turn on notifications because this retrograde is 5 months long, and I will be guiding you through every phase. What surfaces in June is different from what surfaces in August. You will want to understand each stage as it arrives. Every video takes hours of research and careful attention to the patterns in the sky. Your support is what keeps this work alive. Pluto is already slowing down. The station is days away, and the staircase leading into your own depths is forming, whether you look at it or not. The only question is whether you walk down with your eyes open or stumble down in the dark. The door you locked is unlocking itself. What buried truth is ready to rise? The universe has spoken. What emerges next is in your hands.